show your mastery in the blockchain game show, yo.
See Nickx in the house, strategy on the go.
Yo, pump the channel, spread the sock.
I was just introducing Jon Jordan. Now I say it again, hopefully right. New head of business development, the crypto side in Soccerverse. And nothing. Welcome again, Jon Jordan. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How it's going on? What is your day-to-day job? I know because I follow you on YouTube, your videos. But you are like a big boss in blockchain gaming. Just briefly introduce yourself to the audience that still maybe don't know you.
So yeah. So I've been in the games industry for quite a long time now, for 25 years. And started out as a games journalist, and was the thing that interested me wasn't so much playing games. I wouldn't even say I've never been sort of very good at playing games in terms of like, I wouldn't play a shooter and be really good at shooters or good at strategy games, but obviously enjoyed them. But I was much more interested in sort of the business around them. So I spent a lot of time really focused on like talking to developers about sort of why are you making this game, what technology choices are you using, why are you using this. I mean, now today we might say why are you using sort of Unity or Unreal or those engines, or what are you really how are you making this game different? What's the how are you using technology to make your game sort of stand out? Is it you using some particular multiplayer technology that means you can have, instead of just having 100 people in a battle royale game, you can now have 200. That sort of stuff was interesting to me. And also I was interested in the business of the game. So still some games now, you make a game and sell it for $50, and that's sort of always been the way of making money in games. But also now there's lots of different ways of making money. So subscriptions and in-app purchases and microtransactions, and now obviously blockchain as well. So that was sort of my background. And I think that's why when blockchain, I wasn't early to blockchain, so I wasn't like reading the Bitcoin white paper the first year it came out or anything like that. I wasn't mining Bitcoin like obviously some other people at Soccerverse were. But like in 2018 really, which is the first time Bitcoin price got really big, and but for me, we started to see NFTs for the first time. So there were NFTs before then. They weren't really called NFTs. It wasn't really a standard. And then CryptoKitties came out. So probably lots of people still in the space that people know CryptoKitties. So it's really the first sort of proper NFT on Ethereum. Although actually CryptoPunks came before, but anyway, I won't get into all that. So that got me interested because people started in the game space started talking about, well, we can have these game assets. So they could be the characters, or obviously it could be cars or guns or just sort of crafting material, and we can put them on a blockchain. And how does that sort of change the way the game design works? How does that change communities, all that sort of stuff? So it got me really, really interested in that. So that was 2018. And actually I was just looking, because as you say, I do a few different things. I sort of do some sort of journalism stuff. I do a daily newsletter about blockchain gaming. I have my podcast called Blockchain Gaming World, and I was actually just looking. I just check it. So the first interview I ever did. So my podcast Blockchain Gaming World has been going since 2018. I've done over 200 episodes now, and the first interview I ever did was with Soccermanager Crypto.
Wow.
So that was Andy Gore and Andy Clisimo. Yeah. So that was before. That was they were just starting thinking about sort of making what was then the sort of football management game on blockchain. Obviously it's gone through lots of different sort of site names since then, so it's Soccer Manager Elite for a time as well, and after Soccerverse. But that was when I sort of met with a lot of blockchain people, and happened that I'd sort of lived in the same part of England as the two Andys. So I sort of started to get to know them, and that's so my sort of journey with Soccerverse sort of started back then as I started sort of advising that long ago. I mean, I don't know if my advice has been good, but as as the company, as the sort of game has gone through various stages and sort of raised money and that sort of stuff, I've tried to sort of help them along some of those things. So I've also been involved with a games VC called Hero Capital in the UK, and they actually also invested in Soccerverse as well. So it sort of worked out quite well. So that's sort of the potted history. But as you say, I work with Soccerverse, not full time, but I'm spending more time with that, and then I also have these other sort of projects that I do. And in general, I just I try and really play a lot of blockchain games.
You play all of
Try and
them.
understand.
If
No, not all
if
of them.
someone
Certainly not
watches
all of
your
them.
almost all of them, I mean the ones that count. If you go into YouTube channel, by the way, I'm gonna share your YouTube channel in the chat with the
Oh,
guys.
please do. Yeah.
Yes, I do. Every day almost every day there is a new game that you're trying, and it's amazing. Because for instance, I never played Rivals, and
Oh yeah.
yesterday I wanted to check it out, and I checked your videos, and they're very very quick and short videos that just explain everything from an expert like you, not from someone that doesn't know anything about that. So it's really valuable. I'm going to share the link, but please go on. What
Yeah.
are your day-to-day duties now, as a not only as a Soccerverse head of growth in the crypto side, but also how do you make it fit in your schedule? I mean, you are monitoring really the industry of blockchain gaming and also doing this job. How do you put them together?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that actually, the more time you spend on it, the easier it becomes to some degree. Because I've been in the space since 2018. Then, I mean, it's even now. Like, I'll be looking on Twitter or whatever, and I'll come across a game that I've never heard of before. It's like, oh, where did that come from? It's a massive space, so you can't try and cover everything. So I just try and cover. I know a lot of people, and I sort of have. There's a lot of sort of bad blockchain games, or games where you kind of go, not quite sure if they know what they're doing, or I don't really. If teams aren't doxed or something, you just don't sort of trust them. Obviously, there's bugs and all that sort of stuff. So I really don't focus on those. I don't give those any. I don't waste my time on those. So I really try and focus on what I think. And because I come from a normal gaming background, I'm most interested in blockchain sort of games that maybe are blockchain enabled. I mean, obviously, Soccerverse is a fully on-chain game, so that's a pretty hardcore sort of thing. But if the game part of a blockchain game isn't sort of fun in any way, then that just I don't really cover those. I mean, there's a whole bunch of games coming out, sort of like degen games, or they're sort of about wagering or gambling, and some people love those games. Obviously, people in crypto love that sort of high reward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's sort of thing that's and there are some actually quite interesting sort of games in that sort of genre really, and people are really pushing that because it's easier for the developer to make money in the sense. But that's not something I cover. I don't cover that sort of stuff. I like games where there is some sort of gameplay and and blockchain fits into that. So some of those games don't really have a lot of blockchain. They may have like some NFTs or something, but they're not really heavy blockchain games. Whereas Soccerverse, obviously, everything, as we all know, doing the transactions, everything we do in the game is a blockchain transaction. So that's sort of perfect because that's the sort of best of both. But I just spend a lot of time trying to think about things. Particularly at the moment, I don't know, how much your audience sort of look at other games, but there's a lot of games going through like financial difficulties at the moment. It's sort of weird because obviously Bitcoin price is really good and Ethereum price has been picking up, and
Today
just generally,
is a good day.
yeah, and in general, people who a year ago didn't care less about crypto, are now going, oh, this isn't just a joke. This is a sort of serious thing. Serious banks and stuff. Like people maybe know Stripe, really well-known payment company that probably people use online. They're building their own blockchain. I mean, that's it's quite a big deal.
Yes.
But games are actually blockchain games have never been sort of in a worse position. It's sort of quite ironic that crypto in general is doing really well in the world, and blockchain games are sort of gone on a counter cycle. So lots of people have run out of money, or lots of people have realised that their sort of strategy hasn't worked, and they're having to I'm going to shut down this game, and we're going to sort of come up with something else. So that's sort of the where the sort of atmosphere is at the moment. So make it interesting, because I think it does help to show like the really good projects. Obviously, Soccerverse being one of them, but the projects that are really not only having really strong community and sort of growing, but also have proper gameplay and and you just come in and play the games. They're not like switching them off and on all the time. So
For real,
I think
real blockchain ones, not the ones that you and also me, I define like not fake blockchain games, but like half, like the ones that just rely on ownership of NFTs, and they say, okay, this is a crypto game. Well, in reality, it's kind of a half half crypto. It's just you're just
Yeah.
using tokens, and that's it. But it's not fully decentralized, trustless. It which is Soccerverse. So the question is, do you think that people and masses for mass adoption, is it important or not to stress in this type of game where an asset can, like ownership in a club in Soccerverse, could like you know, earn you money, okay, but not only that, but it's actually the value of it, the monetary value can be very high. Do you think it's important for the people to understand the difference between MFL, Sorare, or other competitors that are not fully on chain, permissionless and trustless compared to Soccerverse?
Yeah, I mean that's pick out some of those questions. That's quite a sort of complex question. So I think I think any game that's going to use blockchain has to sort of work out what sort of product it is. So there's no, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. But there is, if you're making a game like Soccerverse, then it has to be fully on chain. You can't sort of, you can't do, as you say, like a little bit where you have other, that probably won't name some names, but there are other sort of competitors that you have to sort of buy an NFT to have a club, and then all the players are NFTs. And you I mean, it's not a wrong decision, but you sort of end up with a very different product, I think.
Yes.
And I think sort of something else you were saying, which I was going to talk about as well, is I think, and one of the, I would say the key things that every blockchain-enabled game has struggled with is this sort of difference between what's the value of something in the game and how does that relate to sort of what people have called play to earn, or the ability to sort of extract money. And clearly that's been the problem for most blockchain games that have got successful. Obviously examples like Axie, Infinity, 2021, where everyone was playing Axie Infinity. The price of the little Axies went from $5 to $300.
I remember.
The price of the token went up to whatever, up $150, and now it's like $2. And the problem is those economies are just not contained enough, because no one wants an economy sort of blowing up like that. I mean, some people do because they sell out at the top and they make money, but then everyone else loses money. So obviously Axie it still continues, but it hasn't sort of grown. It's gone up and then right down and had to sort of really build. So you don't really want that as a game economy. Whereas something like Soccerverse is sort of, as you say, it's sort of interesting because there is a sort of, you can obviously get your SVC that you earn from the game by by spending money and getting assets, getting influence in clubs and players, and then that gives you some SVC, and you can sell that SVC off to get, to sort of cash out. And obviously a lot of people do that and then
reinvest. Some people reinvest.
Yeah, but a lot of people then put that back in the game to buy more club packs. So sort of that's interesting, and they build up their portfolio. And obviously, the interesting thing with Soccerverse and the players is, I'm sure we've all done this, is looking, you're suddenly looking all the time at who are the best 17 and 18-year-old players around the world, and can I buy their influence now? Because in 2 years' time, that's what everyone's doing, isn't it?
Look, but there is going to be an agency only for scouting. It's behind the scene they're working. So scouting is huge. Sorry to interrupt. Yes, a lot of scouting.
And I entirely agree. I think this is a sort of key part of it. But the interesting thing about it is that that's going to take, every 6 months you get the player rating update. So that takes a long time. So that sort of game design means that there's no point trying to sort of, can I get, like, for most people at least, there's no point, can I get $5 out of this game now? Can I get $10 out of this game? I mean, you can, but the whole point is you're building up something that's worth a lot more than that over time. And I think that's the clever thing with the Soccerverse sort of design is everything does have value now. But if you think you're playing the game well, you really think it's going to be much more valuable, like in 2 years' time. So there's no point cashing it out now, because I'm going to do really well, and the game will be bigger then, so there's more people playing. Whereas most blockchain games are like, I've got $5, it might crash tomorrow, I've got to get it out quickly. so you just have a very different sort of momentum around what's going on, I think. And to some degree, that's, as I say, that's good design. To some degree, there's a little bit of luck in there as well. I mean, there's not many blockchain games that have this sort of nice balance between, you do have something you could sell, but if you really sort of think you're good at sort of football,
And I
and obviously most people who play Soccerverse really like playing Soccerverse. We're really quite passionate about it. So
soccer,
we don't
yes.
really want to. We don't want to get $10 out. You know, we want to. Can I make that $10 like $50 in 2 years' time by buying influence in like a club that's going to do really well, coming from the English 10th division up to the Premier League, like some of the clubs are trying to do, or leagues, or invest in the players. So I think that's a really strong advantage that we have. Just the final thing you sort of mentioned about the question is mass market. I think is a difficult question because people think different things about mass market. So could I imagine millions of people playing Soccerverse?
Mhm.
Yes, I could. I don't think millions of people playing Soccerverse in the next couple of years because it's a fully on-chain game. It is difficult to get people into the game, and because you have to sort of know a bit about crypto to really sort of get that next level, to really get
The
into understanding what's going on.
The big dopamine hit comes
Yeah.
with investing. First of all, having Soccerverse knowledge, and then, like you said, attach that Soccerverse knowledge, and even proud and pride. Like, yes, I'm a good scout. I know how soccer works, and earn money. I think that comes also with a little bit of blockchain.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's sort of the issue you have with mass market. But one of the good things I think about blockchain is it also allows what we might have previously called like quite niche games, so games with quite small audiences that probably wouldn't economically have worked previously. With blockchain, you can sort of you because the community is so passionate about these things and they're building value together. You can actually, I think, make these games much more sustainable with a smaller audience. So you don't necessarily need, tens of millions of players to make these games successful. They can be quite successful with, tens of thousands of players or something like that. So I think there's two different ways of doing it. I do think, probably there's things that I probably shouldn't talk about now, but there are plans fairly soon for Soccerverse to have something that is a bit more mass market. And I think the core game is always going to be niche. And obviously, from the way the game is designed, there's only 6,500 managers. So
Yes.
fundamentally, at the moment, we only have 6,500 teams in the game. So we can only have 6,500 managers. I mean, obviously, there's more clubs we sort of could add in. There's things we could do to make more clubs, perhaps. But in the current situation, that's a sort of hard limit we have in terms of active players.
Cool. Thank you so much. And then, to branch out from this answer, based on your experience, what is the current meta in marketing or in the Web3 game? So what is the formula to get to mass adoption in Web3 games right now? What it works and what it doesn't work at all?
Well, I think the two are a little bit related. So I think, if you look across, and I spend quite a lot of time doing this, or regularly doing this, looking at what we might say the biggest blockchain games, or the biggest blockchain-enabled games. It is, I'm going to say easy, but it is fairly easy to get a game to say 100,000, 200,000 players. If you say for the next month we're doing this special event, and everyone who comes in is going to get an airdrop of our new token. So that's sort of how, that's sort of been the big problem for blockchain games is they have this sort of one shot ability to generate a lot of users, get a lot of users in, because the users that don't care about the game, but they go, right, I'm going to work really hard
money.
And maybe spend some money, and I'm going to get like $10, $50. In some cases, some people got thousands of dollars by doing this. Obviously, the problem you have is you do that, and after everyone's got their free money, they dump your tokens and they leave your game and never come back again. So that's sort of the big problem that blockchain games have, is they have this ability, but it kills the game straight away. So there's not really, no one has done this at all, I don't think, where they have managed to sort of slowly build. And the one game that does it, Axie Infinity still does it, but Axie Infinity is still giving away, a certain amount of tokens every day. So if you go in and play Axie Infinity, you can build up, they're giving away free tokens. So they're still doing that, and they have 100,000 daily players, but they're sort of incentivizing them by giving away tokens they can pretty much sell straight away. So That's not a great sustainable way of doing it, I don't think. So, you know,
this is like the
only
pump
way,
and
I think-
dump way, kind of. We can
Yeah, and
sum it
it's
up to pump and dump, something like that.
Yeah, and it's really hard for blockchain games with sort of tokens that can easily be sold. Certainly, and again, another problem is a lot of blockchain games want to get their tokens on Binance or big exchanges. But of course, as soon as you put it on a big exchange, then that means people to just sell it. So you sort of making the problem even worse by going for big exchanges. So what we are seeing, I mean, there's a comparison. It's sort of a little bit comparative to Soccerverse in some ways, obviously not in the tone of the game. There's a game called Craft World, which is on the Ronin blockchain, which is the same blockchain as Axie Infinity. And that's like an idle resource game, so not like Soccerverse at all from that point of view. But it is interesting that they launched their token on Ronin, and their token's a little bit like SVC in the sense that you're basically in the game. You're making different resources, so you're making water, and then you're mixing water and earth, and then you're making mud, and then you're making clay, and then you're making concrete, and then so you're building up all these complicated
progressive
things.
Compounding
Progressive
value, yes.
And it's all based around sort of timers and stuff, and you're upgrading your factories and making this big sort of factory. And all the time they have this token, which a bit like SVC, you could at any point sort of sell it out, although they're not on Binance, they're not on these big exchanges, they're only on DEXs, so that sort of limits that a little bit. But again, they have this sort of situation where that you could sell your coin token if you wanted to, but again, a little bit like having assets in Soccerverse, you always really want more resources in the game to upgrade your factories more and more. So it's like I sort of call them, they are like proper utility tokens or transactional tokens where they do have value, but the value is how you're investing them. In the case of this game, you're trying to build better factories. In the case of Soccerverse, you're trying to invest in
Better
really
players.
Cool 15-year-old from Argentina who's going to be the next whatever Maradona, that sort of thing. So I think that, and when you have that sort of economy, I think those games you can market those games, but you're not doing sort of crypto marketing. You sort of are doing just more general sort of games marketing. So you're not
word of mouth as well.
Well, no, I mean, you can do word of mouth. I mean, word of mouth is quite good for Soccerverse because it does require, I think, like it works better when you know other people who are playing it, and obviously, as we said, it is a little bit more complicated than other games to sort of set yourself up. So, I'm sure we've discussed it before. So obviously, that's why we brought in the jobs board. So the jobs board is really, doesn't fix it, but it helps new players who come in and just go, I don't understand this game. What am I supposed to do? And if they go to the jobs board, they can get a job and they can have connection with someone who maybe will help them. I mean, I've put teams up on the jobs board, and if someone takes over, I give them a bit of SVC to sort of encourage them and say, do you need me to inject some money into the club for transfers? And it just sort of, if you're coming into the game without knowing anyone, it gives you a bit of like, oh, there's some friendly faces here, and yeah. So word of mouth is actually sort of quite useful in within our sort of circles. But I'm sure a lot of us have sort of encouraged people. Like I have my wife plays Soccerverse and my children play Soccerverse, so I've
Wow.
I sort of encouraged them to come along as well. So
the whole family playing soccer. Who's the most the winner of the family?
I wouldn't say we're not very good, actually. I wouldn't say we're terribly good.
Ay. There's room for improvement. Being persistent helps. So this game is going to be here forever. So there's time to improve. Okay, cool, interesting. And what models would you follow? Say, if today you could decide how to grow Soccerverse from a business perspective, from your perspective, what would be the next steps in your opinion?
Yeah. So I have to be careful about what things I can say.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there are. There's always new sort of channels that you can sort of use. So, the main one we're using at the moment is YouTube. Because I think YouTube is obviously the massive channel for video content and tons of gaming content. So that's worked sort of pretty well for us. But it still is that sort of issue where you know, we've tried to work with sort of people who already have a sort of crypto audience.
Yes.
Because if you're interested in sort of crypto, then you know, I don't know. I think it's about 100 million people who've sort of used MetaMask, which seems like a very big number, but obviously there's 8 billion people in the world, so it's quite a small number as well. But if you can get people who sort of have maybe heard of MetaMask or set one up once, and then that's sort of a key audience for us. So it's trying to find out those sort of channels. Obviously, we can do sort of more mass market audience, or sort of targeting. We just find it's very difficult, and often what people do is they sort of log in with a social account, and then they're just a bit baffled by what to do. You know, they sort of come in, and we have had sort of quite successful campaigns on things like TikTok, and you can get like, you know, suddenly thousands of people coming in, and they all sort of, you know, they all sort of get in there, and then some of them all sort of sign up as managers, and then they sort of do, you know, it's not a game where, you know, you can immediately come in and do loads of stuff. You sort of come in, and maybe if the club's not been managed and you've come in on a Wednesday and they've got a game on Saturday, you can sort of, you know, you can do your tactics. But then you come in the next day. If you do come in the next day, like nothing's happened. You've got to wait till Sunday.
It's a slow game. It's a slow game.
So it's a slow. So especially when you're coming in, obviously for the likes of us who like, oh, got to get transfers and you know all this sort of other stuff. You know, all these new features are coming in. There's always something to do, but for other players, it's sort of like, you know, compared to a normal football management game, you'd be coming in and you'd be playing like, you know, half an hour straight away, setting yourself up. And,
Yeah,
we're not like that. So we're quite difficult from that point of view. So
yes.
So the main thing we're sort of doing is trying to work out, you know, what sort of all channels can work for us, but some are much more effective than others. So it's sort of thinking about that sort of stuff, and and sort of, you know, so we're trying to find out other platforms, not necessarily social platforms, where we can sort of have more have the context to give people more complicated sort of tasks. So maybe you can reward someone for sort of logging in and winning their first game or something like that. So it's thinking about those sort of things. That's one way. I mean, obviously the other thing that we're clearly sort of thinking about is how we work with real world licenses. So obviously SoRare spent, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars getting all the licenses. We don't have that money, so, and even if we did, we probably, well, if we had that money. But that sort of, you know, one issue that we've sort of had is we have to be very careful around how we market the game in terms of, you know, we don't have any licenses for any real world football players, so we can't just go, oh, it's a picture of Harry Kane in Soccerverse, because we don't have his license, we get sued. So that sort of stuff, we're working on, you know, what can we do, what's the best use of the resources we have to get those things.
But John,
and that sort of stuff.
Go ahead. No, I'll ask you later. Go ahead.
I mean, that sort of stuff is difficult because I don't think even if we spent the money and got, you know, I don't know, you know, Harry Kane and whoever, you know, Mo Salah, and stuck an advert on there, you know, that I don't think that would actually help us very much, because we'd get a mass market audience maybe coming, and they would just really not understand, you know, the sort of problems that we've said, how they would onboard, and their expectation would be like it's going to be like Football Manager, and to some degree we are like Football Manager. In some ways, we're much more complex than Football Manager, because we're like, you know, we're a multiplayer.
It's very social
football world, but every you know, so it's but I don't think people don't get that sort of straight away. So you know, it wouldn't really make any sense for us to go for like mass marketing. We have to be a bit clever around sort of what we're doing, and I think targeted. For us it's sort of, yeah, and I think for us it's just, you know, blockchain, still people think blockchain stuff is scammy, or, you know, there clearly are scams in there, and some blockchain games have not been very good and been rugs. So us getting the right licenses to sort of go, you know, we know we're not scammy, but now you can see we've got some proper licenses, so you can trust us a little bit more. And that's like another, you know, it doesn't take you from 0 to 1 just by doing that, but it takes you a little bit closer, and then, you know, we make the product better, and different parts of the strategy sort of come into play, and then we're sort of getting there to be a better product that we can market more sort of aggressively.
Interesting. You know why I wanted to ask you, because in my mind, or from a gamer perspective, not from a team perspective, marketer, etc., like Hamburger is saying in the chat, the community pack works perfectly, because for word of mouth, I can tell my friends, guys, Soccerverse doesn't have the license, but some community member made this skin, this translation data pack, where you can have, you know, but this is not official product. It's not from the official team, so take it carefully. But the fun is there. The problem, like you said, is that Soccerverse would need a few key licenses to market, like within the regulamentations, without breaking any rule and go to court. So, in your opinion, you think that licenses are potentially a path to follow for precisely for advertising? And what kind of license you talking about? Are we talking about a few key players like Soccermanager, for instance? They work with Arteta, or managers like key personalities of the soccer world to make some advertisement or partnerships, or actually, I don't know, Premier League license to have official names within the game? It's quite different. It's individual, or take it.
I mean, I mean, yes. I mean, ideally you have it all, but obviously, realistically, you look at sort of the cost of those licenses and think about what they're actually giving you. So, I mean, certainly, on a marketing level, to have, the faces of real players, and that sort of stuff is all, that is more marketing led than, that doesn't really impact the game state. Getting like 3 players licenses that we can use for marketing doesn't really impact the rest of the game. It doesn't impact it, but that's sort of for marketing. I mean, we have, clubs are clearly a thing. So clubs are sort of useful as well, because in a club you get access to players and, as you say, managers, and that provides can provide, I think, it's sort of a deeper interaction with the sort of football organization. That doesn't really, I'm not sure in terms of marketing how much that sort of helps, because sometimes I think, some games, I mean, I remember when Soccerverse started out, before they got their money, and they were only allowed 1 Premier League team a year. So I think they started off with Liverpool. No, started off with West Ham, I think. And then they got Liverpool. And that was really, that was the how the Premier League licensed it. So I think EA had the official license, so they couldn't license it out. But to some ways, in those early days of So Rare, that made that game feel less good, because they only had 1 team's license. It felt really odd, they didn't have the full things. But obviously, it's money. So you have to be a little bit careful, because licenses, I think, can work both ways. You can get 1 team, and it's sort of, you, in some ways, you sort of annoy the support the people who hate that team, or these things can get complicated. So you are basically looking for stuff like marketing, and then there are obviously other things you could look at, or I don't think it's strong enough for us necessarily, but we could look at things, because we have agents in the game. There are some better known agents. Obviously, as you say, managers. We are a football management game, so that's a pretty key thing.
Of course.
So all those things are being considered. It's a obviously it becomes a massive matrix of, there's all these sort of entities in the football world.
Real,
and,
yes,
they all cost, and they all cost different things. So even managers, I don't know. It's not part of my job, but some managers will probably cost hundreds of thousands to work with a year, and some of them probably cost tens of thousands. And obviously, it's some of them are the really big ones. Going to be too expensive, and so maybe you want to find a sort of key up and coming manager from the Championship, or even division, in England, Division 1. I don't know.
Interesting.
So it is quite a complex sort of thing, and I think the problem is you can waste a lot of money on licenses that don't actually get you to where you want to be. There's a case of being quite sort of thoughtful about things.
Yes, and target the real, like, not going all in with, like you said, it wouldn't necessarily help Soccerverse, but maybe some key personalities, like a key OL, but specifically from the world of soccer that people can recognize, etc. That's a good thing. Who knows? We'll see.
And definitely, I mean, these sort of things are very hard to get, but definitely if you can get, talking about, obviously there's loads of people who do KOLs into just general Soccerverse and fantasy football and stuff. If you can get one of what we've tried to do, even with our sort of our current level of sort of quite sort of small sort of crypto, There's no point then just doing a one-off video and going, "This is game Soccerverse. It's really cool."
Yeah.
And, what you have to get, what you want to get, or what you have to get is you have to get the people to understand the game and actually something go on in their brain, so they sort of become like one of us, part of the community. Because once you get someone, because this Soccerverse is a totally unique game.
Yeah, I
You can't make this game without using blockchain. So we can say some of the Web 2 soccer management games are a better football management game, but there is no game like Soccerverse, which is more than a football management game. So
yeah,
if we can get some of those people who love football management games and also can sort of understand some of the economic modeling we're doing in this, then suddenly, it doesn't really matter if you're paying them or not, but they're doing sort of regular videos. I think that's what you want, is someone going, "Oh, this game's so good, I've got to do another video. I'm sorry, I'm boring you with this Soccerverse stuff." And and that's sort of really hard to do, because obviously a lot of people just give me the money. I don't really care about these things. I do a game a week, sort of thing. So trying to, I think that comes with time, and that sort of comes again with sort of the trust and building up, some licenses and all that sort of thing.
yeah. It's a good point, actually. Sometimes I like to do the parallelism. It's totally different, but the meme coin. There is you can almost treat scouting and players, soccer players inside of soccer, as meme coins, because but better. When meme coins they don't have, of course, because they don't have any value. Meme coins and degens, they trade meme coins to make money and dump immediately. In Soccerverse, there are hundreds of thousands growing players that you can invest to and speculate on their success in real life. So I really do see in the future, like just what you said, a lot of small creators, small, bigger than, I don't know, but starting small, just posting about their journey into Soccerverse and say, "Oh, today we're gonna scout in Africa to find the next wonder kid that will play in Liverpool in 5 years," or something like that. But before getting to Liverpool, they have to go to another club and another club. And in Soccerverse, this means base rating of the club goes up, the influence that you buy goes up in price, and also the payout. So it's always potentially there is a loop, the same degens that play. Do you remember that platform, the SocialFi platform that went viral in crypto maybe 2 years ago, and people were buying keys from X, from Twitter. I don't remember the name. Some friend fan, something like that.
Yes, yeah, I know.
Something crazy. Why not with soccer players? I mean, it's almost the same concept if you think about it. So the potential, it's big.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as a sort of as I sort of come back to, as I sort of mentioned sort of a couple of times before, I mean, I think the good thing about it is I mean, the DGen people love meme coins because it just is pure trading. There's no, there's nothing behind it.
Strings attached. Yes.
And that's not really my personality. I'll be totally honest. But I think the good thing about sort of Soccerverse is, as you say, it is, it is about knowing the players. There is skill involved, so they aren't meme coins from that point of view. And I just think the other thing is the whole problem with the meme coin thing that goes, up and then just crashes straight down again is because the whole point is they're totally liquid. You can sell them straight away. And as I've sort of said with Soccerverse, you can sell out straight away. But if you're buying a 15-year-old now, then it's going to take like 5 years probably for you to realize that. So it just makes it I think a more sustainable economy for the game, where you just wouldn't want it where and I mean there are other people who are doing even in crypto soccer games who are doing this a bit more meme coin type, flip, get these, flip them, make your money, go back, and I think they really appeal to a certain type of DGen audience. But I think are just not sustainable, because every sale in there is like it's like someone wins and someone loses, and effectively, the more winners you have, the more losers you have. So you end up, your audience just churns out. It's just not fun. I mean, no one likes losing money if you never win it. Whereas the thing about Soccerverse is there is that financial thing where you can make money, but there's also the status in the game. So how well is your team doing? Are you going up leagues? Are you getting promoted? Or how what's your sort of portfolio, worth? Is that doing well? And there's different ways of playing it. So I think there's just it's a much more sort of nuanced product, and lots of different sort of win states.
Yeah.
So money is part of it, but I would say, I think for most people playing Soccerverse, it's sort of status and showing how good you are at.
100%.
There is skill in the in the management side. I'm not skillful at that. Maybe I'm a bit more skillful at the sort of scouting side. But there is really skill, as you say, in the scouting side as well. So just showing, or I'm sure we had it already. People going, I put $100 into Soccerverse and now my account's worth this, or that sort of stuff. That's not because they want to sell that account off. It's because they want to show this is what I've done.
Yes, it's almost like a game of how do you say, pride or proudness?
Yeah.
You really, soccer is really with your friends in the pub. But when you talk about soccer, there's always someone that wants to stand out because they know more than you. In Soccerverse, you could say, man, if you know more than me, prove it. Just show me in Soccerverse. Are you playing Soccerverse? No, you're not. Then I don't know. You just told. But put the money where you told, something like that.
And it's, as you say, I mean, I think we've already seen this from season 1 to season 2.
We do.
When you can see, we track how much SVC gets injected into the clubs. It's an enormous amount of SVC. So I'm sure we all noticed it when we were trying to do transfers. The cost of players just went through the roof. Because everyone's saying, like, I want SVC, I'm injecting it into my club, I'm buying the best players, and that's why I'm doing so badly in my league, because everyone else spent more money than me, and I improved my team. I'm like, I'm like average 75 or something, and the rest of my league is average like 79. I'm just getting whooped every week. That's
money.
about status.
Spend that money.
I've got to spend the money. Yeah. But that's about status, because people like, I'm in this league and I want to get promoted to the next one up, and that's what I care. I don't really care so much about the money. I care about I beat
winning.
You 5-0.
Yes. Very competitive. There are some very big players, very competitive. We had one here, Odi. Odi's probably here listening to us. Maybe yes. You made I think an article about Odi. Michael
Odie,
Odell.
Yeah, I know Odie. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean Odie is
a big boss.
Odie's very competitive. I mean his whole career is esports, so he really understands the winning mentality in games. But I can't remember what his team was now.
Sutton.
Is it Sutton he's taken over? Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because he was very proud that he got Ronaldo and Neymar Jr. and Dele Alli. And he's just walking through that division.
All of them. That's really a good example of proudness and competitiveness in one person.
But it's interesting that he knows he's going to get promoted, because his team is so much. He would, even if he was a bad manager, he'd still get promoted. But he wants to get to the first division, so that's going to take him. I can't remember. I think
3 or 4 years.
That's going to take him years, and he knows it's a long. I think his team at the moment is sort of the level of the 2 divisions above him, but he still knows to get to that one. He's I don't know if Dele Alli will still be playing by then. Dele Alli will play, but he knows he's got to invest more. It's a continuous thing that he's got to prove. I can get promoted every year, and that's his sort of passion to do it. So that's one of the nicest things, I think, because that's what everyone does in Football Manager, isn't it? You start off at the bottom and you go and win the Champions League.
Yes.
In Soccerverse, it's really hard because you're competing against other people who are also really competing and really want to win as well. So suddenly, you really got to prove it there.
There's been a turning point. So first of all, we all started investing in clubs. Starting of season 1, money flew into clubs. After a while, people switched to players influence, scouting, etc., especially when we realized the potential. I mean, this from season 1 to season 2, where you can actually see, all right, these players jumped to 25 ratings points. That's a lot of money. Or the opposite, this player went down 25 rating points, but the contract is still the last one, so I'm gonna buy it, and I'm not gonna change the contract, because you get the influence from the past very high rating, etc. There are a lot of strategies, and now actually you can see it in the game. myself included, are investing in low league. Most of the money is flowing into low league, almost unknown clubs, because people is very bullish and they believe long term in Soccerverse, and this is amazing. I mean, how many, I don't know, in other games, how many people they actually invest in assets that will be profitable in 2 years time. In crypto, in 2 years time, anything can change. I mean, next month anything can change, but here in Soccerverse, I love it because people is really long-term minded, which is, I think, unique.
And
Another question. No, go on.
I just say just on that point, I think the interesting thing you say is the sort of the obvious thing is sort of players, and I think there's a very strong meta around those players. But as people, I mean, I think you have to be really into the game to sort of know who's going to be the good managers or find out. But it is interesting that even in the early days, you know, there are people like Odie who's doing it a bit more for fun. But some people were putting out like prospectuses saying, "I'm taking over this club, and our goal as a sort of investment trust is to get this club to, you know, up to these levels and by influencing our club, because, you know, this is what we're doing." And that's, again, you say that's almost investing in, well, it is investing in the players.
Yeah,
Soccerverse. It's almost, I mean, it's like
ones.
and it's sort of an esports thing. So there's the real life football players you're investing in. There's a sort of a whole thing around that, and then there's like however many, you know, 1,000 of us are playing Soccerverse. Who are actually the best players in Soccerverse, and how are the sort of their careers gonna develop? And if I put you know, $10 into this guy now, in 5 years' time, what's that going to be worth? Because his club is going to go up to the top division and going to win the, you know, Champions League and going to get all that SBC. So that's a really, and that's the sort of, that's even more interesting, because that's scouting within the game and sort of finding new managers and, you know,
managers.
Sort of.
Yes, 100%. It's that's why I keep on telling my friends, Soccerverse is it can be played in, I think, at 2 levels. Very, very surface level, be a manager, get unlocked, and win, and just have fun, just like a normal football manager game. Very easy compared to Football Manager or Soccer Manager. Simplified. Don't care about anything else. Or second level, get deep. But if you get deep in Soccerverse, it takes you at least 1 season to get to know all the intricacies and dynamics. You have to get to know people personally, DMs. Discord sometimes is very quiet, but my DMs are not. Like, Soccerverse, 80% of deals happen behind the curtains between people. It's amazing. What are in your opinion, the best selling points, or actually what you like the most and what you dislike the most of Soccerverse currently? Snapshot.
What, you mean the game, or
both? First from the game, as a gameplay perspective from the game, and second maybe on the business development side, or monetization side.
Okay. I mean, from the game point of view, it's a bit difficult, because I sort of know a lot of the stuff what's going on behind the ssines. I mean, I think the Soccerverse team is actually quite open about sort of the stuff they want to do. So I wouldn't point out anything that I think needs sort of massive improvement, because I know the team is very focused on, you know, a roadmap that's going to change a lot of different things, and that some of that's features, and obviously with any game like this, you can always go, oh, it could look better. I mean, of course it could look better, but you know, if you spend the money to make it look better, that's going to take 6 months to make it look better, and are you going to get more players because it looks better?
Who knows?
Maybe, but probably not. So is that the best way of spending that sort of money? So, you know, we are a very early sort of stage product, really. I mean, it's only okay. The game in various forms has been playable for many years, but this has only been live, you know, for what are we now? 8 months. So it's still quite early from that point of view. And I think there is time to make it look sort of pretty, and there's you know, it is a very menu-driven thing. So I think that's sort of difficult. People get their head around. The UX could be made easier. But I think, you know, the team is really sort of focused from the UX point of view, user experience point of view, is focused on what, you know, it's very data heavy, and what can we do to make some of the sort of key things easier for people to get their heads around. So I'd sort of leave it at that, but there are some sort of announcements coming around some of that sort of stuff, which will also make it, I think, easier for new players as well. I mean, the wider thing from a business development sort of point of view, and coming back to sort of, I guess, sort of my job is, because I spend a lot of time in the blockchain world, and I do think one thing that Soccerverse hasn't done well, and it's not a critical thing, but I think we have been sort of quite insular, and maybe that to a degree is sort of my fault as well as an advisor, but we've sort of just been, we're working on Soccerverse. We know it's a really good product. We're making it really good. The guys work incredibly hard behind the scenes doing all this stuff. It's going really well. We're really pleased with it. We love the community. The community really seems to love the game. And we've just got on and done our thing. But we've not done a lot of sort of outreach, whereas lots of other blockchain games, I would say, are the exact opposite. Most other blockchain games are rubbish, don't know what they're doing, but they spend all their time going, oh, we're going to do collabs with you, and I'll do a collab with you, and and on Twitter they're just like, oh, we're building a massive ecosystem with you, and it's meaningless. It doesn't add anything to their game. Their game is rubbish. But all they're doing is like, oh yeah, we're working with this KOL and we're going to do this sort of stuff. And so we definitely don't want to be that at all. that's the worst situation. But I do think we can reach out a bit more, and I think because we are in a strong position now, I think as a product, with so many blockchain games, are shutting down or downsizing, or really struggling. There's not so many that are doing well, and I think we are one that's doing well. So I think we can reach out to some of the other sort of entities out there, and just be a bit more, even from like talking to sort of press and stuff like that, we've not really done very much of that. So I think there's some sort of low-hanging fruit for us to just get Soccerverse as something that's sort of known in the blockchain space, and a lot of that is sort of around blockchains as well. So we're on Polygon, and Polygon have been a bit quiet as well. It seems like Polygon is getting getting a bit more sort of active as well. So that'll be sort of good for us. There were a lot of blockchain games on Polygon, and now there's not really that many. So I know some of the guys at Polygon do play Soccerverse on those.
Yes,
so hopefully that'll sort of help as well. So I think we're in a good there's a good opportunity there for us to become a bit more active and sort of become a game that is known as one of the sort of, I don't think anyone goes, oh, I want to play a blockchain game. What blockchain game should I play? I don't think but I kind of think there are games that are spoken about, like we've spoken in this sort of conversation, Axie Infinity and some other ones like that. Off the grid, I suppose, is a big sort of shooter game, and I think Soccerverse should be in that sort of conversation when people are talking about blockchain games.
The big ones. There should be Soccerverse in it.
And it doesn't mean like big in terms of like tons of users necessarily, but like if you want to look for a great example, if someone from a game design point of view goes, oh, there's no good blockchain games, it's just all crap. Someone goes, oh, have you seen Soccerverse? Oh no, I've not seen it. Well, go and check that one out. It's a football management game, fully on chain. You couldn't do, and for me, the best blockchain games are ones you couldn't do without blockchain. You literally could not do it without Web3 technology. And something like Axie Infinity, you could clearly make Axie Infinity without blockchain.
Yes.
It might not be as good, it might not be as sticky, it might not have as many players, but it's irrelevant. The blockchain is sort of irrelevant for that game.
Yeah.
But I think Soccerverse really stands out because it just there is no game there. The way in which ownership works, as we've been discussing, you couldn't do that not using blockchain. So I want to get us into those sort of conversations. So we're sort of raising our profile, and it's not necessarily to get more players in, although that would be nice. But it's just so
reputation,
the reputation in the industry, and all that sort of stuff.
Recognition as well, because one thing that doesn't get across very often is the quality of the team. I mean, in the team we have a Xaya team. They are the inventor of blockchain gaming. Without, HunterCoin back in 2013, I think it was. That was the first fully on-chain play-to-earn game ever launched. Some of the guys, Andy Colosimo and also Daniel Kraft, they worked with Namecoin, which is actually the first altcoin. It was, I think, the first fork from Bitcoin Standard Core, Bitcoin Core. And so these guys made history already, and they stick to it they went through 2 bear market, and they're still here working on Soccerverse, and I think they are amazing. Plus, we have people like you now on board. There is people like Odi, which is not formally in the team, but is a strong community presence, and many others,
And,
which
and I just sort of just interject as well. And I do think the other thing that every game has a community to some degree, but I think that the thing about blockchain games is and Soccerverse does have a long-term plan to decentralize. We won't go into all that. That's another whole massive big thing. But clearly, it's a part of blockchain. But even now, as you sort of proven, with the stuff that you do, the players are as sort of committed to what's going on in the game. Are literally invested in the game. Own the stuff. The game wouldn't work without them. There's no So even in the situation where sort of the team have to some degree, it is a sort of centralized game in terms of sort of GSPs and all that. The team does the development. It's not a DAO or anything like that, although that may come. But even now we have a situation where the community is really as much of the game's success as the dev team is, and already we see quite a lot of tools. You also mentioned sort of data packs and stuff, but there's already quite a lot of tools coming out about
community
helping people deal with metrics and we just want to see more of that. That again over time is something that plays into something you can't do if you're not using blockchain. I mean, it's sort of interesting, and I don't play EVE Online, but I've spoken to Hilmar at EVE Online, and obviously they're doing a blockchain game called EVE Frontier at the moment. They're working on that, and and Soccerverse, the way Hilmar talks about that game is always in my head, reminds me more and more of Soccerverse, because it's basically they're doing a fully on-chain game, so everything in there, that game is being built by the dev team and the community. The community have as much sort of access to the game as the dev team, and also obviously that game is sort of spaceships and blowing people up and stuff. But it's a PvP fully on-chain game, and Soccerverse is a fully, in sense to some degree, PvP. You're trying to beat other players, sort of blockchain game, and it's really sort of quite interesting how I think that there are a few games like that, and we really sort of stand out as being very, very different to normal games where the developer is. I think it's a really you get much better products when the community has that ability. Obviously, it's somewhat superficial at the moment, but not in terms of. I mean, data packs are clearly a very important thing that for legal reasons the team can't do, and so the community is really helping from that point of view. But over time, we expect more and more of those sort of things to be happening, and that makes the game, a better game. It makes it more. It makes it easier for us to market, because these sort of tools make it easier for new players to come in, and even doing like YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff helps people on board, and that sort of part.
Yes. And there are a lot of community tools. I don't know if you use them, but there are a lot of community tools. There is Chipone here with us. He has a website with a whole lot of tools. Akidral here with us as well. Tools, Clocklo, Soccerverse Base, Block 999. A lot of tools from the community, and we're just starting. It's amazing. And this is the beauty of fully on-chain games. And then once it is going to be open sourced, is going to be madness. People can rebuild Soccerverse if they want. Add things.
And talking about if people think the UX could be the UI could be improved, then off they go.
If you want
your own stuff, no, exactly. I mean, and I think again for the dev team, it's a fairly small dev team. They're working super hard all the time.
They are working hard.
There's only so many things they can do, and maybe there are some really talented people design. I'm sure there are really talented designers who
the community,
the community can. I'm sure that in time they can be. If there is a DAO, they will be paid through that, or they can have at the moment we're sort of more on a community donation sort of thing, which doesn't always add up to a full wage or anything. But these sort of possibilities become available now, in the future with blockchain. I think that's what's really exciting. As much as we are excited about the game, we're sort of excited about how we can see the development progression.
Perfect. Okay, last question, John, because I think we went over time. I don't know if you have guys, by the way, now I think we're just wanted to make the last question, and then if you have questions for John, please put them in the box that if John has time, we can answer a few ones. But just the last question is, how do you see Soccerverse in the future? Like say in 5 years time, in your mind, you basically already along this interview kind of answered, but to summarize, how do you see it in 5 years time?
Mm. 5 years is a long time, isn't it?
Too long.
A long time. I mean,
1 year.
No. I mean, 5 years that's nice though. You can sort of don't have to be too worried about the current roadmap if it's in 5 years' time. I mean, I think what the potential is that Soccerverse is a key place where people who are interested in the world of football come, because it may not be the biggest even at that stage. It's not going to be probably bigger than something that the Premier League can put out, or Sky, or goal.com, or there's these really big existing IPs, media sort of platforms around football. So I think Soccerverse. I don't think it's going to suddenly get bigger than those, but I think you can imagine it being sort of the hardcore community where people go and can really demonstrate, in a sort of competitive but also sort of collaborative way, that they understand football. And to a degree, it's dangerous. So I don't play football management games, but there's lots of football management games there, and obviously, people have spoken about how that's used in the real world, and obviously they have a massive big team and make tons of money. But I do think, if you believe in sort of open source and blockchain, you have to sort of think that the community working can come up with, to some degree, something better than that, and something that is more appealing. And because you can just do your own UI, or the underlying everyone has access to the same underlying sort of information, so no one has a clever advantage, no one's sort of gaming the system, everyone has sort of is on the level, and then the people who sort of rise up are proving their skill in some way. So I think that's sort of what you want to see, and you could I think in that 5-year time frame, it's not sort of beyond the realms of possibility where Soccerverse is a sort of a brand that is in the nothing to do with blockchain, in just in the football world, where people start talking about, oh, this thing happened on Soccerverse, or this, have you seen this thing has happened there? And that's sort of how I think with any game, you sort of want something you've created to sort of be seen as bigger than you want to have a strong community, but you want it to be something that people who know nothing about your product sort of have an awareness of, and you want that awareness to be around sort of trusted, and really people who are involved in that are sort of really smart and really know what they're talking about. And maybe we're a bit geeky, maybe they're a bit geeky, maybe they're a little bit odd, but that's the sort of place you go to really know about what's going on.
Some sort of polymarket of soccer,
sort of
something
thing.
like that.
And in, I mean, again, this is sort of not really about the product, but more generally, I think where I see blockchain gaming going. So I'll be a little bit careful. But as we've sort of been talking about Soccerverse, and there's been sort of value you can extract, but value you sort of want to keep as a portfolio.
Yes.
And this may not be Soccerverse, but I do think you'll see blockchain games. People will be able to basically use their in-game account in a financial way. So maybe that could be, you could have some attached to some DeFi protocol, and you could take a loan out against something you have. So we have that already, not in games, but in CryptoPunks, or you have high-end NFTs. You can lock them into a contract and then take out a loan against that.
Sure.
That's sort of standard. And I just can't see. May not be Soccerverse. Maybe Soccerverse won't get big enough, but I can imagine some games will have that you will have an asset in a game, and someone will lend you,
liquidity,
maybe a stable coin or something that you can take out a loan against that. And that's sort of when game, and it would work perfectly for Soccerverse because of that because we're not a game that goes up, the economy goes up and down. We have sort of just this sort of value, and it slowly, it goes up and down slowly over time, over these sort of 6-month periods. But it is sort of real value because it is a real economy that's working there. And that's sort of where I think we mustn't think that all blockchain games have to be hyper sort of financialized. They have to be fun as well.
Yes.
They're not. We don't want to make bank simulators.
That's how
But-
you
but-
open
but-
the show. You play fun
Yeah.
games with
Yeah,
attached
exactly.
development, yes.
But I do think, because at the moment, if you have, people were selling their Fortnite accounts. They've been doing that since, for the last 10 years. People have been selling their Fortnite accounts for thousands of dollars, and that's against the terms of service. This is sort of one of the reasons blockchain games, people got excited about them. I do think
Yes.
the end point is, and Soccerverse is perfectly sort of fitted for this, because it is a game that isn't sort of hypey. It is based on real world attributes, and every season we do is making that economy stronger, and it's sort of highlighting who the best players, who the best managers are, and it's sort of that scouting system is getting more and more sort of popular and more baked in. So
Meta.
that's sort of maybe that's not Soccerverse, but I think that's sort of put somewhere where in 5 years' time we could be.
I really, really like your answer, and I really, really resonate with that, because every now and then when I don't know what to do, I also explore DeFi madness, liquidity
Yeah.
pools, that stuff. I totally understand. And if we get there, and we will, just a matter of time, then we definitely will become like polymarket of soccer, where people don't even know that polymarket runs on a blockchain, but people in the financial world, they use it to basically assess interest in some event. The community sentiment is reflected in polymarket. The same thing could happen in Soccerverse, where even the soccer players in real life themselves, if Soccerverse becomes big, they have interest in showing that their influence is very, very expensive in Soccerverse, because it means that the community believes in them. So I really see even scouting agencies in the future as in actually investing in Soccerverse to pump prices just to show you, why not? To show the community that their players, their assisted players, they're actually big in the social realm. So thank you so much, John. It was a very nice answer, and very nice having you here. If you have time, we have a few questions in the chat. I don't know, because I said 1 hour. It's already 1 hour and 20 minutes. But do you have time?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Let's have a quick look.
I can read the questions for you, if you want.
Okay, I'll go for the ones I can obviously answer. So someone's asking, how is the team going to control the SBC supply, circulation supply? So that I think is actually a very sort of, not unique, but a way which Soccerverse is very different, in the sense that, as far as I understand it, the SBC supply is not designed to be controlled. So so it's not. It's obviously Bitcoin is something like there's 21 million. You can't. You can't have any more than that. That's the point of it, sort of thing. But there are tokens you can have, which it doesn't matter, because it's like a transactional token. So the value of the token is sort of not relevant. The value of the token is relevant at any second, but SVC is not really designed to be a token that you go, I'm going to buy 1 million SVC and just keep them in my wallet, because the price is not designed to go up. It might go up, but the price is not designed to go up. The SVC is designed for you to invest in influence of players and clubs, and then those players and clubs generate more SVC as they become more valuable in future. So there's no point, you don't want SVC to sort of explode out of control. So there is a sort of, it's not vesting, but there is a inflation in there. But it's not like there can only be 10 billion SVC. That's not the point of the game. The point of the game is, if you want to cash out, you use SVC to cash out, and whatever 1,000 SVC is this price, you get this cash out. But really, the point of SVC is you go, right, let's go and find this 15-year-old wonder kid from Argentina, and let's invest in him. And I think that seems like, in some ways, some people go, oh, that's really awful because the price is going to go down. But pretty much the price of every blockchain, apart from maybe Bitcoin and Ethereum, the price of pretty much every token goes down anyway. So to have that understanding that the value is not in how many tokens you have, the value is the assets you have that give you more of those tokens, and the better assets you have will will give you more of those tokens than you would have if you had worse tokens. So that's the way of thinking about it. And there are some sinks because players retire, so people are investing in Messi is going to retire and he's not going to give any SBC. So there is that sort of situation going on where it's not just the whole thing sort of explodes and we don't think about it at all. But it's not, compared to most blockchain games, the circulating supply is not sort of a critical factor in the way it would be.
Interesting. There is another question before that, but you don't see it because it didn't scroll. It's by Hamburglar. Hamburglar asks, what games, as an example, would you like us to model after? And another question by him is also, how do you see a community pool to sponsor our own club with a logo?
He's got lots of questions from him. So I don't think there's any. I think Soccerverse is, from that point of view, a sort of unique product. I don't think we don't have to model. We don't have to model. We want people to model us. We're not looking for other people to model.
I like this.
Not really, as you say, Andy and Daniel have been working in this space for
ages,
longer than me. And they've been building products. So they just have a really good sort of gut feeling on and because they've had this sort of long history in crypto before NFTs came in, they have a very sort of pure view on how these games sort of work. And I think that's why Soccerverse, to some degree, it's a bit of a problem because Soccerverse, people can't get their head around Soccerverse. It doesn't look like most other blockchain games. People are like, where's the NFT? I want to, I played So Rare. I want to buy the player NFT. It's like, no, that's not how we are. There's one player. One club can have him. You can't, that's the hardcore nature of it. So, community pool to sponsor our own club. Does he mean sponsor a real club? I don't know.
I really don't know, Hamburger. If you can clarify in the comment, write it in the comment so that we can answer better. And then Sanks had an interesting question. There will be influence of managers, or this is some financial tool we can't have in Soccerverse? This is an interesting question because you actually mentioned that people will invest into managers, into Nickx or into Jon Jordan, manager of whatever club you're managing, but there is not a direct way to invest. In the club,
in club. So, you're right. It's not direct because a manager could change clubs or a manager could be voted out of a club. So there is that difficulty there. But I think it will start to get pretty complicated. Yeah, and I think sort of at the moment, I guess you're in this weird situation where it's it's a bit incredibly expensive to get like the majority of influence in their team. So most managers potentially could be sort of could be voted out because they don't have enough influence. But over time, I guess what you'll sort of see, I suppose, is there will be no one person could have enough money, but you'll start to see sort of groups come together to maybe want to take over clubs. But even if you're taking over a club, you still want, if you've got a good manager, you'll keep the manager. So I think the teams will work well enough for that to be, the influence in the team will work well enough rather than the influence in the manager itself. Trying to think how the manager influencing would work. I think that would be quite hard.
It's hard also because you can dilute a lot. Imagine how many bots can be created and how many fake people could be injected, and then I don't know, people can lose a lot of money if they invest in alts that don't do anything.
And the thing is, the manager doesn't. The influence is based around entities in the game that are generating SBC. So the manager doesn't generate directly SBC. The manager gets SBC through the club. So the managers aren't sort of worth anything because they don't own enough. They don't have enough assets coming in, I suppose. The game's not set up that way. I'm sure there's ways you could do it, but it would not be a sort of priority.
Okay, there is
what else?
Hamburger said, yes, pay for a logo on a kit.
I know other blockchain games have done this. I think it's not a great use of money to if we had like the Soccerverse logo on a real world kit. You could do it, but I think it's I don't think it was sort of.
It's not
don't see the point of it.
targeted, like you said in the beginning of the interview. Maybe it's for not Web3 games. It's not other type of games could do it, but you said we need targeted marketing to kind of crypto aware, not even veterans or experts, just aware of MetaMask that exist.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, you either pay for something really cheap in a club that no one's heard of, or suddenly this stuff gets super expensive. You know, even like sponsoring someone's club shorts, it's just very, very expensive. You know, it's sort of it's a nice thing to do if you've got that much money. But for us, where we are at the moment,
Chippy is asking, there will be soon or not so soon other countries' leagues. Also, there are plans to open new teams in the existing countries, new teams plus new divisions. So I don't know how much you know, because it's not exactly your sphere in Soccerverse, but I don't know, maybe you know something.
No, there's no plans that I know of for that. I mean, at the moment we're sort of about halfway full, so about half the manager positions are full. So if we got to the stage where we were like 90% full, then
would be a
maybe
discussion.
But at the moment, and obviously there's countries, on the big map, there's countries that are whited out. So there's to some degree, there's some countries you could sort of add in, and obviously you could to a degree, always add. Lots of countries have, 1 or 2 or 3 leagues, so you could always add that. But you start to add you're adding sort of low quality sort of teams at that point, which is people are not so interested, obviously, to manage teams in countries that are obscure. Everyone wants to manage, in
the shiny big ones,
in the big leagues. Yeah. So technically it could happen, but at the moment, we don't need to. So.
Okay. Well, I think we exhausted the community questions. We went through a lot of things. First of all, we got to meet you personally, which is amazing because I always watch your videos, but for the first time we actually can speak and the community knows you. It's amazing. It's been very, very nice to have you here. I don't see any other questions, so I think I will continue the stream. I want to see what happened in Soccerverse, in the games, etc. But the interview is done. So, John, thank you so much. Thank you so much for. And by the way, you guys don't know, but John and me, we got in messages like in 2 days. I gave him like 2 days notice. I said, yes, can you make it on Wednesday? He said, yes. So thank you so much also for being so responsive, so quick.
Okay, no, I mean, whenever, if you want me again, let me know. I'll,
for sure.
No, good questions. I'm sorry I didn't answer. There's a whole bunch of ones here about different.
I missed it. I missed some.
I think it was something about the infinite managers, and one was about Z Run, and someone was asking about basketball. I don't think we have any plans for basketball.
No. Yes. I was reading through. No, there aren't any other questions. They were just discussing about potentially once we go open source, Soccerverse could become Basketverse or Hockeyverse or something like that. So yes.
Well, again, I mean, that sort of stuff is interesting because obviously you think it can happen. I don't know. I don't really follow Soccerverse so much anymore. But it was interesting that they obviously did that, and I don't think that worked terribly well for them. They do basketball. So just because you can do it, that doesn't mean you can always attract sort of the audience. So I don't, it's a sort of an interesting maybe that going back to your 5-year question. How many other sports will Soccerverse be covering?
I don't know. I don't see any other. But for me, because I'm like that. I'm soccer.
But the other thing is, biggest sport in the world is soccer, and it's getting bigger. So, what? Why would you choose something else?
Exactly. All right. Thank you again, John. I think we can close it here. But guys, again, let me put in the comments there you go. Blockchain gaming world YouTube channel of John, so you can follow him on YouTube every day. No, almost every day. You're very busy, always producing something, and especially the reports. He's a data nerd person in the good sense. So a lot of good info, and also, I don't know if you know, but I used your big blockchain table. I don't know if you still have it, but I used it 2 years ago for doing a series of video where Soccerverse was still in beta. I filtered for soccer, keyword soccer, and then I looked at all the crypto soccer games that were there.
Yeah.
All rubbish, except a few. 90% of them don't exist anymore. 99% they don't exist anymore. But there are like the few ones, the ones that we know today. Back then they were still in beta, etc. So very useful. Thank you so much. Again.
Good. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for the good questions.
No problem.
See you guys next time.
See you. Bye bye.